Tell me about this very ordinary looking E12 BMW from which year, Barney?
This is 1981, the M535 E12 or Mark I, the first one. I have a huge soft spot for these. I really believe this car was the birth of the modern super saloon. Not just for BMW, but I think it paved the way for all manufacturers that you could produce very low volume, very expensive, powerful super saloons. And the M535 certainly was that. When you think about its performance figures back in 1981, it was staggering, but with 4 doors and a boot. Wonderful.
Now, we recently let Evo's Dickie Meaden drive this, and I think he was quite astonished with how modern a drive this car was.
I think even he was amazed. I think he's driven a lot of cars, but I just think this is a car that people are missing, and I think they're failing to realise how historically important this car is to, not, as I said, not just BMW, but to motoring as a whole. And I think it does catch people out. Now, it really is 10 years before its time.
Barney, this car is quite low mileage. What's the history with this particular car?
Well, my dad, funny enough, has been looking out for this car for years and years and years, and has known its whereabouts for years. And my father knew the first owner well, who unfortunately died, and his wife kept the car for some years in dry storage. She couldn't face letting go of it, and it was then sold to somebody who worked at her husband's business, and then it sold to the guy that we bought it off. All of them real enthusiasts and absolutely loved it, and this is how it's managed to stand the test of time and survive as well as this. An enormous amount of these E12 M535s disappeared, and I'll be honest, I'm guilty of a few of those when values were not quite what they were today. They rusted dreadfully due to lack of care. Now, of course, with modern rust-proofing techniques, and now they're in the people that love them, in the hands of people that care, these problems can be eliminated now. But a lot did disappear, and I think this one is probably one of the best you'll find.
Now, Barney, just explain to me again, looking at this car, what the motorsport changes were on this car.
Well, obviously at the time there was only a 528i, so BMW put the 3.5 litre M30 engine in with L-Jetronic. That gave 220 horsepower, so a fair amount of performance for its day. That was then mated to a Getrag 265 close ratio gearbox and a limited slip diff as well. Suspension was Bilstein again, often used by BMW Motorsport, with Motorsport springs and Motorsport roll bars again, so of a bigger diameter. Got these fantastic Marla 14-inch wheels, which gave quite a sporty tyre size back then of 195/70/14, and bigger front brakes as well. And then obviously had the aerodynamic aids, so which fairly in the early stages of aerodynamic technology, but the lovely period front air dam and this lovely big Motorsport rear spoiler.
And what's the mileage of this car, Barney?
It's only done 49,000.
Right, so it really was someone's pride and joy, and it's an absolute pleasure.
It really was. It was supplied by Sittner's, brand new, and it was serviced by Sittner's through the majority of its life. The first owner was just an absolute true car nut, and never let it go. Bought it brand new, never wanted to let it go. I think he just realised how special it was.
So Barney, just explain to me that you're not sitting in an E12. Explain to me how much development was done on this car to make it different, because those seats don't look like standard seats.
Well, I suppose to a lot of people this does look like a standard 5 Series inside, E12 5 Series. But I suppose this is the birth of BMW making super saloons, and so it featured these rather wonderful Recaro seats, sports seats, which are wonderfully comfortable. Obviously Motorsport steering wheel. The M535 featured the lovely Getrag 265 close ratio gearbox, helping the performance no end. With a 1:1 fifth gear, the ratios all the way through were just stacked so much closer together. The most important thing is the layout, with its dog leg first. The reason for that being, on a race circuit, you'd only ever use first once to get you off the line. Once you're out of first, you then got the perfect H block of second, third, fourth and fifth. This was a wonderful gearbox, and then went on to feature in all the E30 M3s as well. Partly because it was such a strong